Hello and welcome. I'm Holly Lyons, the Director of the Iowa Legislative Services Agency, Fiscal Services Division. The Legislative Services Agency, LSA, is a nonpartisan support agency of the Iowa Legislature. In this video, Jeff Robinson, Dave Reynolds, and I will review the LSA analysis and projection of the Iowa General Fund budget for fiscal years 2018 and 2019, using information from the most recent Revenue Estimating Conference. This video is intended to be a brief summary of our budget preview document, which was created to help prepare the General Assembly for the budgeting process. The Revenue Estimating Conference met on December 11th and revised the fiscal year 2018 and 2019 General Fund revenue estimates. Iowa Code requires the Governor and the General Assembly to use the December estimates as the basis for the fiscal year 2019 budget. The revised fiscal year 2018 estimate totaled $7.238 billion, a decrease of $2.5 million, which is a 0% change compared to fiscal year 2017. One thing to note, the estimated taxes and receipts for fiscal year 2018 are estimated to grow by $311.8 million, or 3.7%. However, reductions associated with transfers, accruals, and refunds offset all of those gains. For fiscal year 2019, the REC is estimating $7.527 billion in total net receipts, an increase of $289.5 million, or 4%, compared to the fiscal year 2018 estimate. The growth is being driven largely by estimated increases of 4.5% in personal income tax and 3.4% in sales use tax receipts. Over the 10-year period of fiscal year 2008 to fiscal year 2017, the green bars in the chart, net receipts grew at an average annual rate of 2.0%, although there were fluctuations during this period. The red bars are the REC estimates for fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019. While the fiscal year 2018 estimate is no change compared to fiscal year 2017, the fiscal year 2019 estimate of 4% growth is twice the average rate over the previous 10-year period.
Hello, I'm Jeff Robinson, Senior Fiscal Analyst with the Iowa Legislative Services Agency. I will be reviewing economic and other impacts on Iowa revenue. It is important to note that any potential impact of the federal tax law changes that recently passed Congress are not included in the REC revenue estimates. The LSA will continue to monitor the progress of the tax legislation and the impact on the state budget. An issue that has been gaining more attention lately is that of tax credits. Tax credits reduce the personal income tax and corporate tax liability of the tax credit claimant, and as a result, this reduces net general fund receipts. This chart shows the actual and projected tax credit claims since fiscal year 2008. During the 10-year period from fiscal year 2008 to fiscal year 2017, tax credit claims increased $94.8 million, which equates to an average annual increase of 3.8%. For fiscal year 2018, the Department of Revenue is projecting tax credit claims to total $449.6 million, an increase of $117.7 million, or 35.4%. For fiscal year 2019, claims are projected to decrease by 4.5% to $429.2 million. Iowa's economic outlook is showing mostly positive indications. The Department of Revenue's Leading Indicators Index has been showing growth since a decline that stopped January of 2016. This table highlights the most recent 6-month experiences of the individual components that make up the index. 3 indicators have been moving steadily positive, while 3 others have been a bit more erratic in their direction. This chart shows Iowa employment. The blue line is the 12-month average of non-farm employment, which has been rising steadily since the end of 2010. However, since that time, Iowa's share of all jobs in the U.S. presented in the red line has been decreasing and is at the lowest levels since 1987. The employment population ratio for a state is equal to the number of people reporting that they are employed divided by the state's estimated non-institutionalized civilian population age 16 and older. At the start of the last U.S. recession, that would be December of 2007, Iowa's employment population ratio was at 69.6%. Meaning that about 70% of Iowa's working age population was employed. That ranked Iowa 7th highest in the country. The current 66.4% Iowa ratio is the 6th highest in the nation and is 6.2 percentage points above the current national average of 60.2%.
Hello, I'm Dave Reynolds, Senior Analyst with the Fiscal Services Division of the Legislative Services Agency. I'm going to be talking about the current condition of the general fund budget, including our agency's projection of the budget for fiscal year 19. Jeff Robinson previously talked about the general fund revenue estimates. When these revenue estimates for fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19 are entered into the general fund balance sheet, it becomes apparent that the budget for the next fiscal year and a half will be tight. General fund revenues for fiscal year 18 are estimated to total $7,238 million. However, net appropriations for fiscal year 18 currently total an estimated $7,275 million, which results in an estimated shortfall of $37.2 million. The fiscal year 18 appropriations do take into account the required repayment of $13 million to the Economic Emergency Fund that was used to balance the fiscal year 17 general fund budget. If the current estimates hold up, the General Assembly will need to make adjustments to revenue and/or appropriations totaling $37.2 million to bring the budget back into balance before the close of the fiscal year on June 30, 2018. For fiscal year 19, the revenue estimate of $7,527 million set by the REC estimate in December will be the basis for next fiscal year's budget. Under Iowa law, the Governor and General Assembly are required to adhere to an expenditure limitation when establishing the budget for the fiscal year that begins on July 1. The expenditure limitation is essentially 99% of the REC estimate. This means that the General Assembly and the Governor cannot enact appropriations that exceed 99% of estimated revenues. For fiscal year 19, the expenditure limitation is estimated at $7,452 million. For estimating fiscal year 19 appropriations, our office uses the fiscal year 18 appropriations that were enacted during the previous legislative session as the baseline. These appropriations totaled $7,269 million. The fiscal year 19 appropriations were also analyzed by LSA staff to account for automatic increases or decreases that will likely occur in numerous state programs prior to any legislative action. These incremental increases and decreases are referred to as built-in and anticipated expenditure changes. For fiscal year 19, the built-in and anticipated expenditures are estimated to increase by $248.4 million. When the $248.4 million is added to the baseline estimate of $7,269 million, you end up with total appropriations of $7,517 million. When compared to the expenditure limitation of $7,452 million, the total estimated appropriations exceed the expenditure limitation by $65.3 million. If these estimates hold, adjustments will need to be made to eliminate the fiscal year 19 shortfall. This chart shows the significant built-in and anticipated expenditure increases for fiscal year 19. Two items that stand out are the net cash reserve fund appropriation of $91.1 million and the projected increase of $65.1 million for the Medicaid program. These two items make up nearly 63% of the total increase. It should be noted that the Medicaid estimate does not include rate increases for the managed care organizations that will occur in fiscal year 19, which could result in a significant increase in the estimate. A program that receives a lot of attention each fiscal year is funding for K-12 schools through the school aid formula. For fiscal year 19, the Governor and General Assembly have not yet set the per pupil growth rate for school aid. Therefore, for estimating purposes, the LSA is assuming a 0% growth rate for fiscal year 19. Additionally, if the Governor and General Assembly fail to agree on the percent growth in school aid, the rate defaults to 0%. The school aid appropriation is the single largest appropriation from the general fund and makes up over 42% of the total general fund spending. And a 1% increase in the state percent growth rate for school aid would increase the fiscal year 19 appropriation by $43.7 million. While the Governor and General Assembly faced some significant budget challenges during the 2018 legislative session, the overall financial condition of the state is stable. This is largely due to the $623.8 million balance in the state's two reserve funds. This reserve is equal to approximately 8.6% of the fiscal year 18 general fund revenue estimate. And the most that the state could accumulate in the reserve funds is 10% of the estimated revenue in each fiscal year. For fiscal year 19, the balance is projected to increase to $731.6 million, an increase of $107.8 million compared to the fiscal 18 level. This chart compares the actual and estimated balances in the reserve funds to the 10% reserve requirement. State agencies have submitted their fiscal year 19 budget requests. These requests may be considered by the Governor and the General Assembly as they work to complete the budget for fiscal year 19. Departments are requesting $7,535 million from the general fund, which is an increase of $251.7 million or 3.5% compared to the fiscal year 18 level. Departments are also requesting $1,187 million for other state funds, which is an increase of $62.1 million or 5.5% compared to the fiscal year 18 level.
In summary, based on the assumptions utilized by the LSA, the budgets for fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019 will need adjustments to bring revenues and expenditures into balance. The General Assembly will have to evaluate available options and make adjustments as necessary. Thank you for your time and your interest in the Iowa General Fund budget. I encourage you to refer to our budget preview document summarized in this video, and our entire staff looks forward to working with you in January.